Welcome back to the nationally syndicated Price of Business Show. Always glad to have on the program Kevin Downs, who is now a regular on the show. He is a leader in the public adjusting space, and so glad to have him on the program. He's really on the front lines of some of the big issues that are going on out there. Kevin, you've been on the show before. Now you're doing a regular series. One of the things I love to do is case studies, and and people case studies. No, it's a great way. Listeners go, wow, what a great way to see what's going on in the real world. That happens with case studies. Today we're not quite doing that, but we're going to introduce people to your firm. Some of the topics we'll be talking about in the future, and really giving a panoramic overview of some of your success stories as you're in the front lines, and specifically, if I recall correctly, in California and Florida, which is two of the most interesting places to be in your field.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've been in the business now 20 years, and we've delivered over $2 billion to our clients. So we'd like to think we've got a good bit of experience helping people.
Yeah, you absolutely do. So a little bit about that, your story, even your background leading you into this, in my opinion, getting into this makes you a unique player in this field. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I was actually a Florida native, born and raised, which is kind of rare. And after I graduated from the University of Florida, I sold insurance for 5 years. So I was an agent selling policies, and a hurricane had hit South Florida. That's what drew me into the business. Tons of our neighbors were struggling to get the money out of the insurance companies, and I found out there's actually a license called a public adjuster where I could be an adjuster for my neighbors and go get them the checks they needed so they could restore their homes without paying out of pocket.
Yes, and that experience of actually selling product. I've mentioned before, I was in the health insurance industry for a number of years. And so even after all these years, and now things have changed too much, but people will say, hey, Kevin, I'm dealing with this with health insurance. And I love that too, and I relish that too. Forget about it now. It's, you have to be on top of it, which I'm sure you are because you remain in that. But that is such a huge advantage that, what kind of attorney does a person want? An attorney who has worked in both, as a plaintiff and a defendant, with both. So they know both ways. And that's a great talent and wealth of knowledge you bring to every one of your cases.
Yeah, thank you for that. We definitely consider ourselves students of the game. And what I mean by that is we're constantly keeping up on law changes, policy changes, building code changes. I mean, the four corners of the board is so critical to understand if you plan to try to win the game. And that's exactly what we want to do. We want to help get our clients paid quickly and fairly so they can move on with their lives and not have to pay out of pocket.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, your website is askanadjuster.com, correct?
Yes, sir. That's right, askanadjuster.com.
Yeah, people need to check this out. And again, I think it's very important to have that unique perspective. So talk about it. I mean, the headlines, first of all, the whole country seems to be consumed by either rain or fire. It's like, wow, it's very biblical, isn't it, Kevin? It's incredible to watch. And this is part of the reasons why I say you're insane if you try to deal with insurance claims without someone like Kevin in your corner, because the cost of protection, as any buyer of insurance knows, has gone up, particularly in the two states you operate in. And meanwhile, they're working as hard as they can, the insurance companies, to be as reluctant and to drag their feet as much as possible in paying their customers. There's huge amounts of evidence of that. In fact, in one court, the judge said, basically the road goes immediately at the point a claim is made from client to adversary. And you may not know you're now an adversary to your insurance companies, but a lot of those companies are looking at it this way. And so this is a really interesting dynamic you're seeing.
Absolutely. The state of Florida did a study quite a few years ago, and what they found is when a property owner has their own public adjuster, they actually average 747% more money on their claim than if they simply just let the insurance company's people tell them what they want to pay them. It's a staggering statistic.
Yeah, and because of ignorance, and doesn't mean they're stupid. That means they're not informed. They don't do what you do for a living. You know, they love that. They love it, and they play long games. They drag their feet. They do as little as possible for as long as possible because the client doesn't know better. And as soon as someone like you is in the game, and frankly, someone like you with years of experience and someone who sold the product, it's an instant game changer.
Very, very common for us to get involved, and all of a sudden the entire tune changes. Another large check now shows up, and they're willing to actually talk turkey and try to get things resolved because, truth be told, nobody wants to string it out. Nobody wants to have to go through a court system, which costs tons of money. Our job is to get the client paid quickly and fairly, wrap it up, and move on with our lives. One thing I would say, too, which is quite flattering, is, you know, insurance company people, they own homes, too. And not too rarely do we actually get phone calls behind the scenes from people that have a home that need us to help them. Insurance executives calling us saying, hey, I know you guys are the best in the biz. Keep it quiet, but I need your help on my claim.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. It makes, because they know what happens. They've seen it. Okay, you know, we can go on and on in the introduction, and the introduction is important because now you do have a series with us, which I'm excited about. But we also want to talk about a couple of stories, very short, obviously, of what you've been able to do, one in California and one in Florida. Give us an example quickly of each.
Perfect. I was in Santa Monica last week with a single mom who owned a home in the Palisades. She was a total loss. Her home had burned down. She had California Fare. She had been dealing with them on her own, getting very frustrated. She met us. She asked us to take over the project, and in 70 days, we doubled her settlement, and she is absolutely ecstatic. So if you go to our website, you might even see her testimonial video that I shot with her last week at the Santa Monica Pier. But that's just one of many cases where, you know, we step in, all of a sudden real numbers come out and people can move on with their lives and rebuild.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And what about in Florida?
In Florida, we just last week settled a large condo association claim. So originally they were told, yeah, this is below your deductible. We don't owe you any money. They weren't even going to file. We came along. I was teaching a CE class, and the manager met me and said, hey, come look at this community for me. And we just delivered them $1 million cash last week that they didn't know they had coming. So we love what we do. It's always free for us to come out. And, man, if we can deliver you a large check, we're definitely going to do that, and we're going to win together.
Yeah, and I do want to mention that you don't get paid unless the client gets paid, and that's a really important concept for them to keep in mind. We're going to have to wrap it up. Time goes extremely fast when you're having fun, but I'd like you to get a final thought and the best website for people to get more information. I already gave it once, but give it again.
Yeah, so my final thought is if you own a property and you pay for insurance, we want to connect with you now before you have a claim. We have a wonderful program. We can help set you up quickly and easily in case you ever have damage in the future. And we'll tell you all about it. But our website is www.askanadjuster.com. Ask an Adjuster, 20 years in the business. And we'd love to connect with you well before you actually have a claim. So thank you very much for having me, Kev.
That's Kevin Downs. I'm Kevin Price, and you're listening to the nationally syndicated Price of Business show. Stay tuned for more after this.